There are many of you who have asked me about my situation at Baylor University, so I'd like to read a prepared statement about that. Many have asked about my current status at Baylor University, given some of the information that has swirled about over the last several months. I wish to be responsive while still honoring the confidentiality of the processes that are at work. There are men and women of good faith who have spent considerable time on this matter, and I want to honor their efforts while also recognizing the reality of how information of my circumstance has come into a more public view. So I will provide some limited information here in balancing those interests. First, in whatever comments I make, I try to be careful to separate the Baylor administration from Baylor University. This is an important distinction, for I suspect that the great majority of my colleagues at Baylor would be as concerned as I am when a faculty member is targeted for harsh treatment. Second, there are puzzling ironies which attend the distinction between the administration and the university. The honor bestowed upon me by the American Academy of Religion last November came paired with a painful timing. Coinciding with that honor, Baylor has bestowed upon me for 13 years as a distinguished university professor. That has been a deep blessing, for not everywhere can one find a respite to speak a truth that often offends power. Former Baylor University President Herbert Reynolds, Robert Sloan, John Lilly, David Garland, and Bill Underwood were protective of me against the tides of criticism directed against me through the years. About that, I remained relatively silent, but very grateful. Those university presidents made a significant contribution to my family's well-being. Thus, I wondered when Ken Starr became president if this protection would change. Still, I encouraged those who grumbled prejudgments against President Starr to give him the benefit of the doubt. Since then, on several counts, he has served the university in a way that has reassured many. This is important in a place where some have questioned hiring practices against gays, lesbians, Mormons, Muslims, Hindus, and others. While critics may focus on such limitation, until June 29th of last year, I candidly found it generally otherwise. June 29th was the day I learned of a secret administration investigation against me, begun in the spring of last year, for alleged offenses reportedly routine at the university, but which are selectively enforced by the administration with a resultant chill on academic freedom. I was informed that the administration's chief officer, Ken Starr, had approved these charges against me. After that, my job duties as founder and longtime director of the Center for Jewish Studies were systematically eroded, leading to the administration's cancellation of an invitation to Cornell West, which I had co-sponsored. By mid-July, my fall classes were unilaterally canceled. Then on the eve of the AAR honor as a Baylor professor, I learned that charges had been filed by the administration with the Baylor Faculty Dismissal Committee to remove me as a Baylor professor. Whether that timing was deliberately designed to embarrass me, I cannot say. At the time of the AAR conference honor, I did not wish to embroil my colleagues in what was essentially a battle over my academic freedom, but I did not want to mislead them either about my threatened status. Then and now, I acknowledge gratitude to Baylor for the past 13 years, but also acknowledge the painful challenge which continues. After a nearly year-long struggle against an administrative assault that endangers my academic freedom, I feel compelled to disclose what I can. The university administration continues on. Their process is yet to be concluded, and so much must also remain confidential. Bear with me then on those matters which I can speak about. That process is continuing to work its way through the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. First, the Baylor administration decided that they were going to get rid of me. Second, that decision predated the June 29, 2011 meeting at which I was first advised of their intent to terminate me. Third, several months later, the administration filed charges with the Faculty Disciplinary Committee to initiate a process which still continues. Fourth, what is apparent thus far is that the university administration relies upon hyped-up charges and incentivized testimony against me. Fifth, I have been defending myself on less than a shoestring budget with the services of unpaid lawyers against an administrative juggernaut with both unlimited funds and vindictiveness. Sixth, there are men and women of great good faith who are considering my fate even now, but who ultimately, by the administration's structured process, will be trumped by the man who authorized the June 29th efforts to terminate me, Ken Starr. Seventh, there is a parallel process that is likewise working itself through the EEOC, that is, in relatively early stages. Again, I am careful to separate the Baylor administration from Baylor University. With all its imperfections, Baylor University remains a fine institution of higher learning with distinguished colleagues whom I respect and admire. I have devoted more than a dozen years of my and my family's life to Baylor University. To experience the administration's efforts at institutional violence and defamation is deeply saddening. I believe that academic freedom must be protected at Baylor and at every university. Standing up against this unjust power has taught me much about life and the cost of speaking the truth as I see it. My hope is that even at this late moment, and with the support of my Baylor colleagues and other academics around the world, that the Baylor administration will have a change of heart. We shall see.